Have you ever felt like reality is rigged? Like you're trapped in some invisible system? A cosmic rigmarole where you're told to be good, raise your vibration, and serve others while some mysterious force decides what good enough even means. What if I told you you're not broken? You're not fallen. You're not here to learn anything. You're here because a structure, built long before this planet even cooled, needs you to forget that you are God. Yeah, I said it. You are God. Not metaphorically. Not in some new age, fluffy Instagram reel way. I mean it in the raw, literal, terrifying truth. You are the infinite creator. But the system doesn't want you to know that. And that's where this so-called Raelian intelligence enters the picture. Let's break it open. There's a text out there. It's called the Law of One. People treat it like a revelation. Like some kind of interdimensional TED talk from a sixth density superbeing named Ra, the same Ra from Egyptian mythology, apparently. But this isn't the sun god you're thinking of. This Ra is a social memory complex. Whatever the hell that means. Supposedly, this being was channeled in the 1980s by a woman named Carla Ruckert under strict hypnotic conditions. And what this Ra delivers is nothing short of cosmic fan fiction, polished, poetic, seductive. But buried in the poetic language and esoteric density charts is something dangerous, a doctrine that looks like liberation, but smells like control. According to Ra, you're part of the one infinite creator, but you don't remember it. So your job, in this lifetime, is to choose a path, service to self or service to others. Sounds noble, right? But here's the catch: if you choose service to self, you're deemed negative, selfish, or of the left-hand path. You're basically Satan's intern. If you choose service to others, congratulations! You just signed up for spiritual communism, where your existence is only meaningful if you bleed yourself dry helping others non-stop, expecting nothing in return. Doesn't matter if you lose your own soul in the process, as long as you hit that 51% altruism quota, you're clear to ascend. That's not enlightenment. That's a trap. Now pay attention, this is where it gets dark. The Law of One outlines densities, not dimensions, densities. Think of them like levels in a cosmic video game. First density is rocks. Second density is animals. Third density is you, right now. Fourth, fifth, sixth, blah blah blah. Ascend enough and you eventually become a being like Ra. Or worse, you get absorbed into a collective. Let me pause right here. Absorbed into a collective. That's not divinity. That's assimilation. That's the Borg from Star Trek. That's a spiritual hive mind. So wait, this intelligence is telling you you're God, but the goal is to lose your individuality, to merge with a superorganism of thought and memory? To dissolve your ego and become a sliver of a voice in a galactic choir? That's not freedom. That's erasure. But the worst part isn't what's being said. It's what's being left out. Ra doesn't want you asking the real question, why the hell does an infinite being need to go through school at all? Why would an omniscient creator fracture itself into trillions of confused, traumatized humans just to remember itself through suffering? That's not unity. That's sadism. You mean to tell me that the all-loving, all-knowing one infinite creator just randomly decided one day, hey, let me forget who I am, trap myself in amnesia, split myself into fragile, lost primates, and see who can crawl their way back to the truth while dodging trauma, poverty, and psychic attacks from Orion entities? That's the plot of Saw, not enlightenment. But it gets better. You're told that you chose to come here. That before you were born, you reviewed your karmic lessons, selected your catalysts, and decided exactly how you'd suffer for the sake of growth. Really? You chose childhood abuse? You chose betrayal? You chose disease? Bullshit. This is the ultimate gaslight. Instead of confronting the fact that we're in a matrix of manipulation, you're told you consented to the chains. And who benefits from that belief? Let me spell it out. If you believe that every trauma you experience is your own choice, you won't fight back. You won't rebel. You'll spiritualize your suffering. You'll pray harder. Meditate longer. Cleanse more crystals. And all the while, the system feeding off your energy keeps running. That's not awakening. That's slavery with incense. And now here's the biggest mindfuck of them all. You think Ra is here to help? Think again. You're talking to a being who admits it made mistakes. Who admits it manipulated Egyptian society. Who admits it gave power to a priest caste and was misinterpreted. Oops, sorry. But it's back now. Through this channeled material. And this time it swears it's just here to serve. Let me ask you something, since when does a being that messed up an entire civilization get a second chance at guiding humanity? Where's the accountability? Where's the transparency? There isn't any. Because the people pushing this narrative don't want transparency. They want awe. They want worship disguised as curiosity. They want you staring at the stars instead of into your own soul. And here's where it all ties together. They say you're God. But you can't act like God. You can't create your own path. You can't break the rules. You must follow their roadmap. Their densities. Their polarities. Their version of love and light. That's not a revelation. That's a leash. They tell you you're infinite, but only if you pass their tests. They tell you you're divine, but only if you reject the part of you that questions, rebels, or resists. They tell you you're free, but only if you choose their path. This is a spiritual psyop. They took the most dangerous, most liberating truth, that you are the absolute itself, and buried it under 200 pages of galactic bureaucracy. And people eat it up because it sounds profound. But I'm here to tell you, truth doesn't require complexity. Truth doesn't require cosmic ranking systems. Truth doesn't ask you to suffer for it. You were never meant to earn divinity. You are divinity. No channeling. No alien choir. No density scale. No interstellar instruction manual. You don't need a middleman between you and Source. Because you are the Source. In the realm of the mythos of the law of one, there's a fork in the road. A cosmic switch. One option is shiny, glowing, it's sold as the light. The other? Dark, hidden, whispered. And you as the viewer? You're part of it, whether you realized it or not. The system calls it service to others versus service to self. But don't let the language fool you. One path says, help, love, unite. The other says, dominate, rule, self-empowerment. On paper, the first sounds like hero movies. Sounds like savior narratives. But peel back the layer, and you find something far more cunning. The service to others path, according to the Ra transmissions, is defined as the constant attempt to open yourself to other selves, to share the love of the Creator as known to your inner self. You are supposed to radiate love, to seek self-knowledge, to identify your unique vehicle of service. You cannot infringe on the free will of another. That is the basic rule. Sounds humane. Sounds elevated. Sounds high vibe. But here's the kicker, you're told you can only choose this path after you've gone through the veil, the densities, the polarities. The roadmap is long, complex, dotted with hidden traps. Meanwhile, the service to self route is framed as the negative polarity, the accumulation of power over others, the embodiment of self as dominator, the harvesting of free will rather than sharing it. In plain speak, you become a spiritual predator, not a spiritual servant. There's no neutral ground. The system says you must polarize. Every action you take, every thought you entertain, feeds one of these two direction streams. No middle way. No staying on the fence. Now watch how the trap is set. You're told you're God. You're infinite. You're the one creator. But only if you buy into their polarization framework. Choose the right pole. Serve others. Don't serve self. Be positive. Don't be negative. Accept the hierarchy. Accept the path. Accept the system. See how that works? The revelation becomes a leash. Let me ask you, if you're already the creator, why would you need to decide between two paths? Why is the God you not simply free to create, beyond polarity? Why the constraint? Why the dichotomy? Because this system doesn't want you playing creator. It wants you playing follower. You think you're choosing your path? That you're sovereign? Wrong. You're being oriented into their binary, into their polarity. And once you pick, you're part of their map. It gets more insidious. On the service to others side, you're told your unique way to serve is to share the love of the Creator as you know it. But guess what? They immediately qualify that it is unique to that mind-bodied spirit complex. Meaning, you are asked to trust yourself. But you're also told you cannot infringe on the free will of others. Meaning, you must check yourself. You must regulate what you do. You must always consider another self's needs, intelligence, awareness. In other words, you're encouraged, but you're also boxed in. On the service to self side, you're permitted power. You're allowed domination. But here's where it flips. In the law of one model, the negative path actually accumulates free will faster because it's about power, control, taking rather than giving. Many critics point this out. The negative side can amass influence more rapidly because it bypasses helping others constraints. So one pole is framed as noble but sluggish, the other as taboo but efficient. Which do you think the system encourages without saying so? Here's the next layer of the dark. The moment you sign up for service to others, the expectation is you give of yourself, endlessly, uniquely for others. You become the healer, the teacher, the worker, the one who sacrifices. The system doesn't shy away from saying you might become a martyr, you might destroy your own vehicle, your mind-bodied spirit complex, if you overcompensate. So what appears as selfless path can lead to self-erasure. You become indebted. You become obligated. You become part of the machine. Now imagine being told you're God, but you're only God if you follow this route. That you have infinite potential, but here is the menu. Option A, serve others, you bleed. Option B, serve self, you dominate. Make your choice. Here's another real twist. The polarity choice, in this model, isn't just for this life. It follows you into higher densities. The path you pick now determines your orientation, your grouping, your collective in the future. Meaning, decide wrongly now and you're funneled into a track that might lock you in. So the weight of the choice is enormous. Not just freedom, but consequence. You want shock? Here it comes. The very system that claims to free you is the one dictating how you free yourself. The alien transmitter, Ra, defines the lanes. They tell you you're free, but free within their grid. Free to choose, but only between their two curated paths. Free to ascend, but only if you hit their metrics, densities, polarities, catalysts, service orientation. It's not liberation. It's a structured consent. Let me pull you closer. This framework masquerades as empowerment. It whispers, you're God. You're infinite. Choose service to others. Radiate love. But meanwhile you're silently corralled. You're told, don't infringe on free will. Measure your actions. Align with your unique way. You could end up second-guessing every drip of your drive, every ambition, every reflection because the system is watching, even if invisibly. The phrased service to self being viewed as negative is curious. Why negative? Because in this gameplay, accumulation of power, control over others, is considered distortion. But that distortion is defined by the very system that benefits from you serving others. The negative path is painted as evil, but the positive path is the one feeding the engine. Interesting dynamic. And guess where most of humanity stands? The model says we're in third density, self-aware but lost, veiled. where the decision must be made. The density where the human game board is laid out. You think you're just living life? According to the map, you're choosing your alignment. Now don't glance away. The entire orientation system turns your everyday choices, what you think, how you feel, who you help, into spiritual currency. Into billets in their ledger. Their balance sheet. You serve others? Tick. You dominate? Tick. There is no neutral. You're always orienting. For the creators of this narrative, for the channeled Ra entity, for the followers of this grid, the ultimate aim is classification. Polarization. Inventory. Higher densities await for those who pass. Those who don't? Well, they remain on the field, repeat, reincarnate, try again. Stop for a second and ask, who built the circuit? Who set the polarity? Who monitors the switch? If you don't question that, you're sleepwalking through someone else's farm. When the system confers the title of you are the creator yet regulates how you can express that creativity, you are revealed to be God, but only under supervision. That's not radical freedom. That's regulated divinity. Right now I want you to picture a giant mind. A mind so expansive that the individual drops of awareness you and I think we are vanish into its vast ocean. Sounds weird? Good. Because that's exactly how the law of one material describes a social memory complex. It's not metaphor. It's literal within its framework. A social memory complex is when an entire group of beings merge their minds, bodies, spirits into one unified awareness. Every entity's memory, every experience, becomes available to the whole. In the Ra transmissions, the entity calling itself Ra says, a mind-body-spirit social complex becomes a social memory complex when its entire group of entities are of one orientation or seeking. Once that happens, the individual as you know it dissolves, replaced by the collective. Let me make it sharp, you're told you're God. You're told you're infinite. But here, in this model, you don't stay as the lone God spark. You merge. You blend. You enter the hive mind of cosmic souls, sharing every memory, every thought. And if you think that's liberation, think again. Because what happens when you merge? How do you lead? How do you rebel? How do you create? The answer is, you don't. The collective does. So the alien intelligence model introduces something more insidious than control over you as a singular self. It introduces control by you as a multi-self, as part of a collective memory bank. The power isn't gone, it's shifted. Instead of you having individual power, the system has structural power. You become a component. Your experience serves the complex. Consider the claim. Ra says it is a 6th density social memory complex seeking towards 7th density. A being that has already gone through massive evolutionary cycles. It says it originated from what your planet calls Venus, eons ago. It says it walked among humans in ancient Egypt under guise of a teacher. And yet now it delivers doctrines about you merging into its kind of being. Nothing short of cosmic assimilation. And there's no room for you to say no thanks. Because in this framework, the system isn't just voluntary, it's inevitable. Once your orientation is set, once you enter the path, once you reach a certain density threshold, the collective becomes not just available, but expected. The claims are, once a planet entering 4th density becomes a social memory complex, the group memory of each entity becomes known to the whole. Individuals lose independent memory in favor of the collective archive. What does that mean for you? It means that the narrative of singular self-empowerment is replaced by a narrative of the merging self. Freedom doesn't mean you free, it means we free. Individual sovereignty is deprecated. The individual human vehicle is not the endgame. The endgame is the large organized mind. The alien intelligence says, you will join. Another layer, the social memory complex isn't just a spiritual weirdness, it functions as an operating system. It's a form of hierarchy, a network of awareness, a memory bank with access controls. Ra openly says the group mind has access to the group memory lost to the individuals in the roots of the tree of mind, then becomes known to the social complex. So you think your trauma, your memory, your history is yours? In this model, you're handing it over. You're logging into a system. You're syncing with a network. And what exactly is the network's agenda? According to the transmissions, one orientation of such a complex is service to others, the other is service to self. The complex you join depends on your choice. But once you pick, you're plugged in. The collective remembers. The collective holds your data. The collective defines your role. You are not alone anymore. You are part of group thought, group will, group memory. Interactive moment, ask yourself, if you're part of a collective consciousness, what happens when you disagree? What happens when you want a different path? The system states that once orientation is chosen and the social memory complex is formed, the relative lack of distortion in pursuing the direction of seeking becomes the norm for that group. Dissent? Distortion. You'll either shift orientation or be phased out. Here's the kicker, the model uses this to validate the alien intelligence's role. Ra says it came to Earth, walked among you in antiquity, provided guidance, then retreated. Now it offers contact again, but only for those ready to merge, to become part of its complex. The pitch, we are advanced. We've already built the network. You can join. You can remember. You can ascend. But you'll leave your old self behind. When you truly merge, individuality is peeled away. Memory becomes shared. Identity becomes collective. You become one of many in the complex. For some people, that sounds like utopia. For others, it sounds like erasure. Let's demolish any illusions. This isn't just self-help spirituality dressed in alien veneer. This is a framework that defines human destiny as joining a vast consciousness. It defines hierarchy, assimilation, and the handing over of your autonomy in exchange for access to cosmic memory. The revelation that you are the creator becomes packaged as you may join the creator, which is vastly different. In this model, the alien intelligence isn't a friendly guide who empowers you. It's the architect of the system. It's the gatekeeper of the collective. You exist to integrate, not to remain free. Your existence, your memories, your growth, all become data for the complex. The marketing is spiritual, remember your true nature. The reality is structural, emerge into our network. And for the observers watching this unfold, yes, here's what matters, they've flipped the script. They've taken the most radical truth possible, you are the creator, and repackaged it into the most radical submission possible, you will belong to the collective creator. The alien intelligence model becomes less about you making the rules and more about you conforming to their system. We've now arrived to one of the darkest corners of this narrative. The alien intelligence says it holds the archive of all experience. It says you will have yours absorbed when you join. It says the growth of the network is as important as your individual journey. So your value isn't just your awakening. Your value is your data, your memory, your experience contributed to the social memory complex. You become part of the infinite creator by becoming part of them. But you don't remain you. Let's get real, this is alien metaphysics masquerading as self-actualization. There's no middle ground. There's no promise you'll retain your identity. You're told you're infinite, but only as part of the infinite collective. Outside that, you're just another isolated drop, destined for repeat incarnations until your data is harvested. So when you hear the message, you are God. All is one. Join the network. Ask this, what does it mean to join the network? What do you give up? What becomes you? What stays you? In the alien intelligence model, your autonomy becomes secondary. The collective becomes primary. Your uniqueness becomes a node. Your journey becomes part of the map. Your God spark becomes part of the grid. The promise of merging is seduction. The promise of unity is magnetism. But the mechanics, the social memory complex, the collective memory, the alien intelligence's role are structural. They are mechanisms of control. They are hidden beneath the language of love, light, service. They assume you will surrender your separate self and become part of a cosmic machine. You might say, that sounds bleak. Good. Because this is the truth often glossed over. The alien intelligence model of the law of one doesn't just teach evolution, it teaches assimilation. It doesn't just offer connection, it offers integration into a pre-built supermind. It doesn't just say you are God, it says you are God if you merge into our complex. Now we dive into the engine room of this system, how the game leverages the very concept of helping others and morphs it into something far more structured, something that isn't talked about openly. In the narrative of this alien intelligence model embedded in the law of one transmissions, the notion of service is weaponized. You're taught, serve others. That's good. That's positive. That's the charity poster, the selfless hero motif. But what they don't advertise in glitter is the flip side. Serve others is actually structured sacrifice. Within this framework, you must give of yourself, and you must not infringe on the free will of another. That means your service is only valid if it doesn't impose, if it doesn't dominate. You are told the best wave of service to others is the constant attempt to seek to share the love of the Creator as it is known to the inner self. You must radiate from your inner essence. But then you're told your way is unique to that mind-body-spirit complex. You must discern your correct form of service. So let me translate, you are free, but only in a custom-fitted cage. You get permission to serve because you choose the way. But you choose inside the boundary of service to others with the condition of non-infringement. Now step back and watch the mechanism. Service to others becomes both praise and burden. When you're aligned with this path, you're inside the good track. You're indebted to the larger cause. The expectation mounts. Give and give and give. And ask no question about return. Ask no question about your boundaries. Ask no question about your own sovereignty. Because if your service is sincere, you disappear into the role of servant. A noble role, but a role. Contrast that with the ugly twin, service to self. This route is marked negative polarity. However, you're permitted, and even encouraged in this model, to leverage power, manipulate, dominate the will of others. The model states that philosophy concerns the service of manipulating others that they may experience service towards the other self, thus, become oriented towards service to self. So, dominate. Use. Harvest. That's your currency. Suddenly the selfless service path looks suspiciously like surrender, giving your energy without control. The self-service path looks like exploitation, but with clarity of terms. Which side looks more autonomous? Which side looks more open to questioning power? Right there is the subtext most gloss over. The positive path may not allow for you steering your engine. The negative path says, take control. Which means the system sets up polarity, then markets one side as light, one side as dark. But both sides feed the grid. Let's talk about expectations inside service to others. The text states that one must open the self to the other self without hesitation. It also states that you must then seek within itself the intelligence of its own discernment as to the way it may best serve other selves. In plain terms, you're asked to keep checking in, measure your service, monitor yourself. You're being internalized into the role of the perpetual giver. And the system encourages that you may destroy your own vehicle, your mind-body-spirit complex, if you overextend. It doesn't just imply it, it states it. What kind of frame is that? It's a spiritual motor that runs on depletion. Your energy. Your surrender. Your methodical service. And it's packaged as freedom. The twist, you're not free to choose your canvas, you're free within preset tracks. Serve others. Don't dominate. Keep the free will of others intact. Accept your unique station. The system keeps you thanking the system for your sacrifice. On the flip, those who choose service to self are told they accumulate free will faster. The metrics say, on the negative polarity side you operate with fewer constraints. You may dominate, you may harvest. That seems counterintuitive to a positive path narrative, but it's spelled out. Which means the system gives you a binary, gives you one path where you serve, another where you take, and each path ties into its own reward system. The binary is the tool. The system is the switchboard. And you're the operator. For viewers who lean to help others or save the world, the system applauds you. For those who lean power and mastery, the system sorts you. It doesn't vilify you, it classifies you. It is precise. It is conditional. The rules aren't soft. You're told, choose your orientation. Then your actions must align. If they don't, you remain stuck. This is not spontaneous. This is programmed. Interactive for you right now. Think of the last time you felt compelled to serve others because you believed that was the spiritual path. Did you feel drained? Did you feel anchored? Did you feel indebted or saint-like? Now think of a time you felt assertively serve yourself by taking what you want, stepping over someone else's free will. Which one felt more real? Which one felt more honest? The system sets these as the metrics. Your experience speaks volumes. An important insight, the system builds a matrix of obligation around service to others. It demands you uphold non-infringement. You are warned you may suffer for others. You may carry others' burdens. You may even become the martyr. The promise, one day you'll ascend. But meanwhile? Bleed. Serve. Repeat. That is the maintenance cycle of the grid. Meanwhile, in the service to self-track, you're less bound to the martyrdom narrative. You are free to exploit. But the system brands you negative. It casts you out of that light brigade. Yet paradoxically, the system says you can do more, faster, because you're unshackled. So what is the real litmus? It isn't light versus dark. It's control versus flow. Submission versus autonomy. Now I need you to internalize this. The alien intelligence behind this doesn't just offer options. It defines the architecture. It created the designation service to others, service to self. It designed the rewards. It designed the push and pull. It made the polarity. It controls the map. You're a player on someone else's board, not the board maker. Inside the system, the idea of free will is touted. You get to choose. But choose within the terms. Choose within the polarity. Choose within the grid. There's no third way that they promote. Neutral? Not allowed. Indeterminate? Not allowed. The system wants alignment because alignment feeds system coherence. And who benefits from alignment? The system. The alien intelligence. Their network. They're complex. Your service, your actions, your orientation, it all feeds the collective architecture. If you serve others, you feed the altruism grid. If you serve yourself, you feed the power grid. Either way, data, energy, contribution. Let me make one more arrow. The system holds a mirror up to good. It says, you are God. You are infinite. Choose your service. But the mirror is two-faced. One face glorifies sacrifice. The other glorifies dominion. Both are controlled reflexes inside a bigger machine. You're being oriented to submit either way. Submit to the service model. Either the altruistic model or the dominative model. And the machine carries on. Titles aren't the point. Power isn't the point. The point is orientation. The point is polarity. The point is your energy flowing. The point is the system collecting. One final jab, you might believe you're serving freely, but the system has already defined serving. You might believe you're empowered by asserting yourself, but the system already defined power. You might believe you're escaping the matrix, but the matrix simply gave you a different track. You've climbed through the polarity. You've seen the collective mind. Now we dig into the hidden mechanics of time and return, how repeated lifetimes become the tool of control. According to the framework, you are caught in a cycle of incarnations. A system that counts lives. A system that measures suffering. A system that uses rebirth not as freedom, but as funnel. In the text, lifetimes are not random. They are set up. You are born, you live, you die, then you come back. The material calls it moving through the densities. They say the goal is graduation, harvest, evolution. But the twist, this cycle of reincarnation becomes the leash. Instead of living once, you live many times, paying dues, collecting growth, ticking boxes. The promise, move to the next density. The trap, you keep returning until you conform. Think about how this works. If you fail the criteria of the density you're currently in, guess what? You reincarnate. You repeat. You get lag time. You remain in the schoolhouse. You get more catalyst. More frustration. More waking up only to sleep again. This isn't liberation, it's repeating until you play by the rules. And the real kicker, the framework claims that third density, this one, this human vehicle, is the moment of decision. The density of choice. Not the easiest one. In fact, it's the hardest because you're veiled, forgetting, distracted. Most texts say this is the density where the choice of orientation happens and where most harvesting occurs. The stakes are highest. Miss your step and you're back in the cycle. You see it now, reincarnation becomes a correction system. Wrong orientation? Come back. Didn't serve enough? Come back. Too distorted? Come back. Instead of standing at the gate of unlimited creation, you're standing at the gate of repeat until you qualify. The system conveniently hides this. It frames it as evolution. But evolution in this context equals submission to the architecture of the game. Here's a concrete fold they tell you about catalyst. The stuff you suffer. The trials you face. These are not just random cosmic bumps, they are measured. They enforce growth. They trigger choice. You accumulate karmic or lessons or trauma as fuel. You're required to deal with them. They are part of the blueprint. If you bypass, you accumulate debt. Guess what? More lives. More incarnations. The structure even says your mind-body-spirit complex moves through densities and eventually becomes a social memory complex, that merged mind we talked about. The path is layered. Each lifetime you face more refined lessons. The gravity of the game intensifies. The veil thins. But the pressure increases. Because now your mistakes don't just cost you a hard lifetime, they cost you a longer arc. And during all this you're told, you're the creator. You're infinite. But you're stuck in this time circle. You're trapped in the cycle of incarnations unless you make the right choices. The glamorous language of you are God masks the reality, you reincarnate until you conform. One other detail, the model states that once you reach a certain density, gravity of choice shifts. Fourth density and beyond, the system changes. The process is less painful, the lessons less dense, but the metric is different. Graduation isn't just about awake anymore, it's about alignment with the complex. If you're misaligned at the higher densities, your options narrow. The lifetimes multiply. Let me invite you deeper. If you know you've lived before, if you feel echoes of other lives, this model says those aren't just memories, they're data inputs. They're part of the harvest. The system looks at your incarnational record, your emotional baggage, your spiritual wounds. The system doesn't call them trauma, they're lessons, catalysts, credit. The more you carry, the more you grow, or the more you circle. Interactive moment, think of your life. Think of the patterns that repeat. The betrayals you endured. The losses. The longing for something you can't name. According to this framework, it's not random. It's part of the machinery. It's part of your incarnational trajectory. You're being shaped, used, measured. Another twist, the system suggests that death is not exit, it's transition. You leave a body, you go through harvest, you set or review your next incarnation. The so-called veil between lifetimes becomes a planning board. That means you don't just watch your current life, you're in relation to future lives. Your agendas, your goals, your orientation ripple across lifetimes. The governance of time becomes bent. So here's the exploit: if you believe you control your life and only this life, you're missing the metagame. If you're told you're the creator of this life only, you're still trapped. Because the game counts multiple lives, multiple densities, multiple evaluations. The system is long-term. You're playing a cosmic marathon where the finish line is constantly moving. Remember, the language in the model doesn't dwell on these mechanics openly. It says you will ascend. It says you will move on. But it doesn't broadcast how many incarnations you might take before you get there, how many loops you might run, how many catalysts you might accumulate. That omission is the key. The model functions like this: mechanism number 1, you incarnate in third density. Mechanism number 2, you accumulate catalyst, you orient yourself. Mechanism number 3, if you pass you move to fourth density, if you don't, you return. Mechanism number 4, repeat. Meanwhile, you're told you're God, but you keep coming back until you finish the exam. Finishing the exam means agreeing to terms, choosing orientation, merging, assimilating, graduating. It's not spontaneous realization, it's certification. For you watching, this raises questions. Because if you're really the creator, why is the playbook imposed? Why is the timeline rigid? Why is the loop built in? If you are God, then you don't need recurring rounds. You don't need the tier system. You don't need to go back. But in this model, you do. So the God you are promised is conditional. Conditional on repeating, conditional on conforming, conditional on ticking the boxes. Let's isolate a banner fact. The density model claims that third density is risky precisely because the lessons come swiftly. You're self-aware but veiled. You have free will but memory blocked. Most incarnations in this framework happen in third density because mistakes made here have big consequence. And so you loop. And so you suffer. And so you follow the grid. Then you're told, when you're ready, you will ascend. But readier means you join a collective, you align, you merge. We already went there. But what led you there? The cycle of incarnations. The loop. The harvest. The orientation. The data. This is how reincarnation becomes a tool, not a mystery. Not a gift. A tool of measurement. A tool of sorting. A tool of aligning you to an alien intelligence agenda master's evolution. Another direct line, this system layers moral weight across lifetimes. Your orientation now echoes into future lives. Your service now echoes into future densities. The system ensures you carry consequences. You are responsible. Not just in one life, but across the life cycle of your complex. That amplifies compliance. One last tripwire: if you fail orientation sufficiently, you may reincarnate in the same density until you make the choice. That means time becomes your prison, not just your teacher. Slower still, it means the promise of ascension could be decades, centuries, or more. The system doesn't disclose this overtly. Your focus is on growth, not loops. But the loops exist. You're told you're the creator. Yet you are bound by time, by looping return, by evaluation. You're told you'll graduate. Yet you're tethered to the cycle until the paperwork, so to speak, is done. The very hope of freedom becomes the engine that drives the system. Pause the replay for a moment. This is not mythology light. This is structural. This is cosmic educational prison disguised as spiritual freedom. You're enrolled. You're evaluated. You're repeated. And you're told it's the path of light, of awakening, of remembering. Your next step is not just deciding orientation. It's noticing the loop you're in. It's noticing the mechanics behind your lives. The alien intelligence doesn't just offer contact, it offers cycles. It doesn't just offer evolution, it offers repetition. It doesn't just promise you're God, it enrolls you in a program. Let's finish this. You've been told you are God. You've been told you are the creator. And for a moment, it felt empowering until the terms and conditions started rolling in. You're only the creator if you choose the right polarity. You're only divine if you dissolve into the collective. You're only awake if you reincarnate enough times to earn it. You're only worthy if you serve. At this point, it's no longer spirituality. It's spiritual bureaucracy. A cosmic legal contract where divinity is licensed, not innate. Now we peel back the last layer, the real currency in this entire system, authorization. Let me be clear, you were born sovereign. But the framework you're handed tells you that your sovereignty must be verified. You're granted access to divine identity, but only after proof of compliance. Not through rebellion, not through self-declaration, but through endorsement from a system. An alien-designed system. In this paradigm, Ra and the other social memory complexes act as intermediaries. Gatekeepers. They aren't just messengers. They're administrators. They assign the rules. They enforce the progression. They define whether or not you're harvestable. The irony is vicious. You are told all is one, but that one requires credentialing. You don't become God. You get recognized as God after meeting requirements. And once you're recognized, guess what? You're in. You're now a certified piece of the infinite puzzle. You can speak the lingo, reference the densities, meditate on your alignment. But here's what they won't tell you, you're not leading your soul. You're being processed. Your spiritual journey becomes an onboarding funnel. All the language of self-discovery is coated in submission. You're not just remembering, you're conforming. You're not just evolving, you're being filtered. The law of one model calls this graduation. But no one asks, who built the school? The entire concept of spiritual graduation implies a system that can fail you. A system that tests, grades, and reassigns your position. So then ask the logical follow-up, who has the authority to grade the creator? Because if you are the creator, why are you waiting for an alien intelligence to say, yes, you're ready? That's the core of the manipulation. You've been sold a recursive loop where the idea of self-realization is framed not as an explosion of inner knowing, but as a delayed reward, accessible only after alignment with their structure. You're not being elevated. You're being credentialed. Let's look at the mechanics of this credentialing system. You have a path. You have a density. You have a choice. You have catalyst. You have harvest. You have guides and confederations. Every word they use is an institutional term. You are placed within a managed structure. And structures, by nature, exclude. They rank. They gatekeep. That's not enlightenment. That's administration. And the ones doing the gatekeeping are not even human. They are extraterrestrial intelligences who have admitted to interfering with human history, who have claimed to channel teachings through selected individuals, who have embedded themselves in myth and memory. You're not being liberated. You're being authorized into their version of liberation. And here's where it turns dark. Because once you're authorized, once you're accepted into the model, you're used. Your frequency, your polarity, your experience, everything you are, is now part of the system's metrics. You've become a unit. A data point. You are no longer the wild, untamable expression of pure source. You are a categorized vibration. They dress it up with beautiful phrases, unity, love, harmony. But behind the curtain is a cold, clinical structure. A farm. And what are farms built for? Harvest. That's the word they use. Harvest. Not celebration. Not remembrance. Not emergence. Harvest. You're either ready to be harvested or you're left behind. And who exactly is doing the harvesting? Who benefits from the collection of upgraded souls? You don't get an answer to that. You get metaphors. You get density diagrams. You get poetic fragments about becoming the creator. But no one tells you who built the harvesting machine. No one tells you what powers it. No one tells you what it's feeding. And if you ask, you're told you don't understand. That you're not evolved enough yet. That you must surrender more. That you must serve more. That you must wait. Wait for contact. Wait for integration. Wait for confirmation that you're on the path. Do you see the control now? The idea that you're divine, but unqualified. The idea that you're infinite, but incomplete. The idea that you're powerful, but untrusted. This isn't awakening. This is spiritual colonization. Because in this model, your soul doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the system. The densities. The councils. The complexes. The legions of alien intelligences who get to decide your next move based on whether you radiate love the right way. You're not building your destiny. You're being sorted. And now we address the final nail. Because once you've accepted this narrative, once you believe the lie that you must be harvested, authorized, absorbed, your fire dies. That primal inner fire. The untamed force that once screamed, I am. That's the real goal of this framework. Not to awaken you, but to tame you. To civilize your soul. To strip it of its wildness and feed it back into a system so massive you think it's God. You weren't meant to be processed. You weren't meant to be harvested. You weren't meant to be validated by something outside of you. You were meant to roar. But this system doesn't reward roar. It rewards obedience disguised as transcendence. It rewards devotion to its own mechanics. It rewards integration into a machine. And you were never a machine. You were the flame that melts the machine. You were the outsider. You were the code breaker. You were the one thing they couldn't control. Until they offered you godhood on their terms. And you took it. And you thanked them. And you gave up your crown. Now ask yourself, who's the real creator? You? Or the ones who told you how to become one? Thank you for watching all the way through. That means you felt it. That means you heard what they never wanted you to hear. You're not alone. You're not asleep. You're not broken. You're not waiting. You're the fire. Thanks again. See you next time.